Hi, and welcome to this video on UI hacks with JavaScript. My name is Eric, and in this video we're going to manipulate the UI of Business Central with JavaScript, but in an interactive way. People often ask me how I actually work in some of these things, and I've found that even though it's very fast to code and compile, deploy, sometimes you just want to get more interactive, and so I came up with a small little tool of doing this, and I want to show you how that works. So here is my good old Visual Studio Code, the newest version, of course, and I have added a folder to a new project, and a folder called workbench. In the workbench there is a page called workbench, and the type is a card part. On this we have three fields. We have a multi-line field called code, we have a multi-line field called arrow, and a user control, so some JavaScript. And what I want to do is I want to be able to write some code in the code field and perhaps get some error messages and stuff like that in the arrow field. And then I just wanted to be able to play with it. And JavaScript has a awesome feature. Let me show you. I find my so the user control is a signature Hogarth control, because if you're subscribed to the channel, you have seen this before. If you're not, you should have subscribed. So do that, and I'll wait while you do it. And you can see that this control add-in is not really anything. It's just a dot. So what's interesting in here is that JavaScript has this function called evaluate, and it takes a string and a string with code in it, and then basically JavaScript has a JavaScript compiler executor built in, so you can write code. So I could do something like alert hello world in a string here, and then I could eval that, and that would produce an alert. So this is pretty cool, and this I'm totally gonna abuse this. So the idea is that I have this workbench, and then I can plug it into something very quickly because it's just a part. So I'll create a new file here, and we'll do this on the customer card. So we'll create a page extension. Extend customer card, and we want to be first. So let's just go for the win. Add first to content, the worst place you normally can put stuff, but in this case that's where we want to be. Actually, we could do something else. This might backfire in a second. Let's try to put it over in the fact boxes just to see what happens. So we want to put a part with the workbench, and the page is called workbench, and application area equal all. So that's it. We have added our page part to in this case to the fact box. I think this will backfire on me, but let's see what happens. This is a video on hacking, so let's see what happens. We need to open that. See, the problem with fact boxes are that they are always read-only, so this will not work. We can do one more thing to see if we can force it to be. I think we're out of luck. I don't think we can get anything other than if we did it. We could do it, but that would be with JavaScript, and I think that would be a different video. So let me go back to what I intended to do here for a second. I intended to add it to the content. There we go. So now we have something that we can type in. That's great. So remember, whatever I type, and then let's look at the page for a second here. I type and then I exit the field to validate it. Whatever I put in there will be executed. So let's try to compile this thing, or pretend that what I have written was JavaScript. And I get a syntax error. That's pretty cool. So let's do what I just did and say, alert, hello, YouTube world. Something like that. I type out, and I get an alert up here. So this works pretty well. So I added a small function in my, let me show you in here. In this guy, I added a show function that will send stuff back to my arrow box. So I can see show window, and I get that that's a window. So normally, if you would manipulate something, you would do document dot get element by ID, and then we need to get an element name. Let me just make it a tad smaller so we can see what goes on. Hope you guys can still see this. I'll open, so Control-Shift-I if you're in Chrome or the new Edge. And then I can use the select inspector tool here. So I can select something. Let's go with the name. So we can see here, actually let's just look at what we have up here. So you can see, perhaps you can. So this one is a text area and it's called B4KEE, the control name. So let's get out of this and then ask for B4KEE. See what that is. So I document.get element by ID, and I supplied the ID of the field. And there's nothing to stringify because it did not find anything. And that's because document. So if you're looking online and finding examples of how to do stuff, you often start on window or you start on document, and most of that will fail if you try it directly in JavaScript and Business Central, because window and document are actually the controller in sitting in an iframe. So it's a page by itself inside another page. So what we need to do is break out of that. And in this case, if I go window, so that's the iframe, and then I do parent, that's the whole page. So window.parent.document, and ignore the red lines. That's just because my browser wants to spell check my JavaScript. So let's see what we get now. So now we get an HTML text area element. So this is awesome. So let's call it editor and put it into a variable here. So now we had a variable called editor, and you know what? Maybe I want some more room for code. So let's do editor rows equal 5. See what happens. Boom. Saw that? Let's go. Let me go back to 3. That's the number that comes out of Business Central. There we go. I could go big. 300. Bam. Look at the size of this page now. We can go back to 1. So now it's a 1-line thing. So So now we're hacking the UI. Now we're changing the interface. So now we have figured out that the 2 lines of code we need to manipulate a control. So we could put that into a controller in, and then control the size of a text area. So if you really want something to be of a different size for people to type in an address or so on, you could totally do that with this. One small problem here. What is B4KEE? So now I cheated using this one and figured out what the name of the field is, but that's not so. So if we look at this again, I click on this and let's look at it over here. Let me do this one more time. So this one, so we can see that this is a text area rows equal 5, because that's what we did. You see, if I go in here and say row equal 4 and execute, this changed to a 4 up here. Pretty cool. Class equal something, but I would need a drink in order to read all this out. Spell check equal true. So we could actually get rid of that thing here. Let's try that. You see, spell check equal false. I wonder if, let's remove all the code here and then insert it again. Do we get spell checking now? No. So we have removed the spell check. How nice is that? What else do we have here? We have something that's so what's interesting here is that I removed the caption from this one, meaning that it's getting really hard, because behind the scene Business Central of course knows that B4KEE is something, but we don't know what B4KEE is. So let's take a look at another field. Let's take a look at the name field. And this is more interesting. We can see that it also has an ID called B4OEE. But it also has what is known as an area label, area hidden. So area is probably some sort of either it's the framework they have been using for some of it, or it's a code name or something. Anyway, so you see the area thing all around. So what we could do is, instead of doing get element by, so let's change this to name, and let's show name so we can figure out if we got anything. So instead of get element by ID, let's do something that's a bit more sophisticated. So there's a function in JavaScript called query selector, and the query selector is the syntax is pretty weird. So it takes a string. So I added quotes, and it can just take a string, but it can also take something that's closer to a regex kind of thing. So I could say that area label, if area label starts with, and then I need some quotes here, starts with name and a comma. If you remember, let's go back for a second and check this one. So the the area label is name, comma, and then the value. So now we actually have something. So name, comma, if it starts with name, let's try and get out of this. So we get an HTML span element. And I think that was exactly, yes, this is a span. So now we have the control, and we have the control in a meaningful way because we know it from the field name. So now I have you now proto-vision. We can change this, so we can say name.set attribute, and let's mess with the style of this thing. Somebody asked at some point in one of my other videos, can you show how to change the background color of a field? And you know what? I can, hopefully. Let's see how this goes. So name.set attribute style background color :red semicolon exit. And the field is gray. Okay, let's investigate. Let's investigate. We can, oh, hang on. We can see here that the style background color red. So that's pretty good. If we make this even wider, we can see that the element of style is background color red, but it's crossed over. So why is it crossed over? It's crossed over because somebody else, some CSS style sheet, has decided that whatever we do on the control, they are more important. But there is a trick here, so we can do, and we can say that we are important, because we are. And there you go. So now we have changed the background color of the name field. If I had been more clever, I would have, you could easily see now that we have all the components where we could say that its credit limit is something and balance is something else, and we could make a whole new alert system here. So that's not bad. Okay, let's do something else. We'll do one more. So I think you get the idea of where we're going with this. So let's remove this, and we will grab this one again. Then let's grab the trash can. I will want to do stuff with the trash can. So let's figure out what we know about the trash can. First of all, we know that that has so many classes on it but a data icon name is called delete. So we can use the exact same trick here. Let's actually undo this one and just what should we call it? We can just call it name. We don't care about that. So we can go with, and can we anybody data icon, what was it? Data icon name. Should start with delete, and then we don't want to change the calls. Let's just see. So we get something. So we have found this one. So let's just, if I spelled this wrong, there's nothing. So I know that I have the right one here. So what we can do now is, use the same trick. This is apparently a one-trick pony kind of video. And we can, let's do something like transform, and we'll rotate this guy. How about that? Rotate 45 degrees. Something like that. Let's keep an eye on the trash can. Let's see what happens. You saw that? We rotated the trash can. How cool was that? Okay, so we can play with that, and let's create a variable called degree. Set it to 0. And then let's create a function called rotate. And I'm going to grab this guy. And instead of 45, I'm going to take I to string, and then I'm going to increment. Oh, hang on. Unexpected end of input. Well, that's pretty. I'm gonna increment I whenever this one is going. And then I'm gonna do Windows set interval. I'm gonna call rotate every 10 milliseconds. Let's see if this works. I tab out. This did not work. Let's see why this failed. We get a bunch of arrows. So let's see if we are able to see what went wrong. Tons of stuff. Parameter undefined, name exception. So I is undefined because I call it degree. And it will have to be degree, not I. Let me actually, I'm just gonna put this into the clipboard, and then I'm going to reload the page. So you see almost 9,000 arrows. Let's put my code back here. Let's see, degree equalness, zero, rotate, name set attribute, do that to degree, set interval. Okay, let's tab out of this. And now we have a rotating trash can inside BC. I'm almost reluctant to switch away from this because that's pretty cool. But I'm gonna do it anyway. So as usual, you can find, and only if you subscribe, because if you don't subscribe, you're not allowed to go to my GitHub and grab the source code for this. But if you are subscribed, go to GitHub and grab the source code for this. So you can use the workbench to play around with JavaScript and find out how to do things. I'm gonna give a general warning that as soon as we're touching, you know, the names and the labels and all that, Microsoft can change this at any given moment. And if they break your stuff because of it, too bad, because this is hacking. This is not, Microsoft has not made any promises that this will ever work. No, they have never made any promise that this will continue to work exactly this way. So if you venture into stuff like this and you're daring enough to put it into production, be prepared to check every single CU that comes out, whether they have changed the name of something or the labels or stuff like that. I'm still just looking fascinating at the rotating trash can here. So with me looking at a rotating trash can, this is good night from British Columbia. See you again next time. Bye.